Life is full of contradictions. One of the most self-actualized men on earth. In fact, during his time, this person was the richest individual in the world. He was so powerful in terms of wealth, influence, affluence, investment, and social impact. By the end of his life, he made an observation. And this is what he said, and I quote, that the race is not to the swiftest, or the battle to the strongest, nor does bread come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favors to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. You know, what this individual was trying to insinuate was this. Sometimes it's not the strongest person that wins the battle, nor the fastest runner that wins the race, nor the most intelligent person that lives life to the fullest, but time and chance happen to them all. You know, I've been around for a while and I've noticed one thing. Did you know that someone can be highly educated and not intelligent? Another person is highly intelligent and not educated? And in most of my forums, I ask my audiences, would you rather be an educated fool or an intelligent idiot? And I'll get very different kind of answers. Some will say, okay, I'll rather be a hybrid. I'll rather be an intelligent idiot. But here's my point. My point is very simple. History books are full of statistics, are full of stories of men and women like you and I that were endowed with intelligence, charisma, talent, and pedigree, but ended up living just regular lives. My challenge to you today, do not become part of the statistics. Welcome to Be Inspired with Pepe Minambo, this exciting, inspirational show curated to challenge, provoke, and inspire you. And this show has been made possible through the generous sponsorship of Pepsi Max, living life to the fullest, to the maximum, and Centenary Bank, our bank. You know, banking that transforms, banking to the real economy, banking at the bottom of the pyramid with an emphasis on mission critical portfolio. So I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this show possible. And we are coming to you all the way from Lake Victoria, Serena Golf Resorts and Spa. I say there are many places in Kampala, but then there is Lake Victoria, Serena Golf Resort and Spa, the pride of the capital. So tonight, I'd like to take us into the third aspect on how to unlock your full potential. The first aspect we talked about exposure. The second aspect we talked about self-awareness. And on self-awareness, I mentioned about the 3 mirrors of self-awareness. Mirror number 1, what you think about yourself. Mirror number 2, what others think about you. And mirror number 3, the truth. I left you last week with a homework to go and find out about your truth. And I say your truth is more powerful than your job. Your truth is more powerful than salary promotion. Because you know what? The old book says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You know, when you discover your truth, you get freedom. You get wings to fly. And any flight shortens the distance. Something that you could have become in 3 years, you become in 1. Whatever you could have achieved in 10 years, you achieved in 5. Because you have discovered your truth. So, welcome tonight to the show. Some people, having never discovered their truth, they are just but a shadow of what they should be. You know one interesting thing about a shadow? A shadow has no weight. And these people work for organizations, but they have no weight at all. They have no strategic weight. They have no professional weight. They have no intellectual weight. They have no financial weight. They have no weight. In fact, most of them will say, oh, the day I get into a greener pasture, that's what I become, this and that. The day I get a better opportunity, that's when I behave this and that. Never. It will never happen. You know, I love Nigerians, and they have funny sayings. In Nigeria, they say, a lizard in Africa will never become a crocodile in America. Let me tell you, if you're a lizard in your current organization, you will never become a crocodile abroad or in another organization. In fact, if you go somewhere else, you just become an advanced lizard. You know, you just become an expatriate lizard. And lizard with an experience. And no one will believe you. In fact, they will chase you very fast. So, find your truth. Your greener pasture is your truth. You can flourish, you can grow, you can transform to full potential under any circumstances, in any territory, in any organization, provided you find your truth. In my book, talking about the truth, I mentioned about the Japanese. I say Japanese believe in 3 powers, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1 power Japanese believe in is the power of the sword. Number 2 power is the power of gold. And number 3 power is the power of the mirror. According to Japanese, the power of the sword is military power. They believe that you could not be a strong nation if you do not have a strong military. So they invested in the military. The power of gold is financial power. You can't develop as a nation if you're not financially strong. But then the power of the mirror is the power of self-awareness, the power of self-image. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Japanese legend, the 3rd power, the power of the mirror, was the most powerful power of all the other 2. In your case, the power of the sword could signify your education, your experience, your talent, your brain. When you go for job opportunities, you go with a sword. You go to defend your brain, your skill, your talent. You fight your way to the top. The power of gold is financial power, pay, benefit, incentive, bonuses, welfare. But the most important power is the power of self-awareness. So, you may have a job, you may have income, but the most powerful power that will turn your life around is the power of the mirror. I still challenge you to go and find your truth. So, people have been asking Pepe, so how do I find my truth? I'll tell you one thing. To help you find the truth, step by step, I'm organizing a forum on the 8th of July, a symposium with 2 of my best friends. One of them is called Dr. Robert Burale, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya, and Sarah Richson from London. These 2 transformational speakers will be right here in Kampala on the 8th of July. It will be a half-a-day event from 8 a.m. to lunchtime. We'll be talking about profound transformational insights on finding your truth, transforming to full potential, rethinking your career, reimagining your future. So save the date. We'll give you more details as this show unfolds. The power of the sword, the power of gold, and the power of the mirror. Find your truth. We'll be right back after the commercials, and then we'll continue with our topic of the day, the 3rd insight and aspect on how to transform to full potential. We will be right back. Welcome from the break. One of the people that have really inspired me over the years, I'll say for the past 20 years, is John C. Maxwell. We all know John C. Maxwell through his books and through his work. Now I'd like to share with you the power of discovering your truth. John C. Maxwell has been a pastor all his life. For about 25 years, he was pastoring a Methodist church called Skyline Methodist Church. But then he became an author. He wrote mainly on leadership. In fact, he has been dubbed the best leadership experts of the 21st century. But how did he get his aha moments? How did he discover his truth? One day, his publisher told him, he said, "John, do you know that your books are bought mainly by business leaders and executives in this town? Your fellow Christians, pastors and believers do not buy these books most of the time." John said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yes, business leaders in corporations are the ones that are buying your book." And John Maxwell said that was an aha moment to him. That when he believed and realized that his message was meant not just for the four walls of the church, but for the corporate world at large. He decided to transit from the pulpit to the marketplace. And John C. Maxwell said he had a congregation of about maybe 1,000 people. It took him 3 years to transit because he didn't know how business people speak, how things are done in the corporate world. He humbled himself. He went on asking questions, holding interviews, making inquiries about how the business world and the marketplace works. After 3 years, he was ready to transit. To cut a long story short, having discovered his truth, John C. Maxwell went on to training over 50 million leaders in 200 countries and territories from around the world. His books have sold to the tune of 30 million copies. He has held conferences in almost every territory and country you can ever imagine. By the way, in 2008, as soon as Obama became the president of America, John said he was so privileged to get a call from the White House that the president wanted to have coffee with him. And upon arriving at the White House, Obama made an offer and asked John if he could be his coach. Now, wait a minute. This man was a mere pastor of a small congregation, but then he discovered his truth. Then he went ahead to having mega impact in the world. Can you imagine? Over 50 million leaders trained, over 30 million copies of books sold, been in over 200 countries from around the world. He has coached not only presidents, he's been to Senate, he's been to Parliament, he's had impact on leadership, philosophy, and theory in our time like no other person has had. That is the power of discovering your truth. So my question to you is, what is your truth? You could be fighting over a small job, pay increase, bonus, incentives, not knowing that your truth could be bigger than your organization, than your location, than your territory, than your pay. You could be having a truth that will impact an entire generation, 200 countries, 50 million leaders, 30 million copies, a lifetime of impact and influence. So, ladies and gentlemen, before think about greener pasture, traveling to Europe or getting another job or fighting for salary or bonuses and incentive with HR, think about your truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It will give you wings to fly. The things that could have taken someone a lifetime to do, you'll do it in 10, in 5. The growth that takes people an entire career, you'll do it just at the beginning of whatever endeavor you commit yourself to do. What's your truth? Go out there and find your truth. I'd like to introduce tonight the third aspect on how to unlock your full potential. We say number 1 was exposure, number 2, self-awareness, and number 3 is intentionality. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't succeed accidentally. You have to be deliberate and intentional. I'm yet to meet a man or a woman who fulfill their full potential, who climb to the top of the corporate ladder or any endeavor they committed to pursue without being intentional and deliberate. In fact, we say, if you live life casually, you end up as a casualty. You can't just live life and then expect to succeed. It doesn't happen. Everyone I know that has succeeded was intentional, strategic, deliberate. That's how they succeeded. But today, we have so many casualties in the world because they are living life casually. You see, one of the greatest forms of abuse in the world is not drug abuse or alcohol abuse. I tell people the greatest form of abuse in the world is potential abuse. People have abused their potential. Men and women born with the potential of becoming something significant and impactful in the world, but living very casual life. You know, potential die in the dustbin. Potential dies in the names of a houseboy. Potential dies in the names of street prostitutes. Potential dies in the name of a housewife. Someone with the potential to leading corporations, they sit at home just as a housewife. I'm not saying being a housewife is bad, but I'm saying potential die in the names of a housemaid. Potential dies in lodges. Potential dies in the names of life sentence in prison. You see young men and young women with potential of transforming the world, but unfortunately serving life sentences. I say one of the greatest forms of abuse is potential abuse. You can't succeed accidentally. You have to be intentional and you have to be deliberate. You have to know, number 1, what do you want? You have to know, how do you want it and how do you get it? You have to know, number 3, who could help you get it? But you also have to have a clear idea of where could that happen. And then you have to be specific about when do you want it to happen. Then finally, you must be clear about the final outcome and not compromise along the way. So you should be strategic. You should be intentional. You should be deliberate. You see people working for institutions that have 5-year, 3-year, 10-year strategic plans. But if you ask them about their personal lives, if they have any, no game plan. If you ask them if they have a strategic plan for their family, no game plan. But then they want to succeed and to attain a certain level of satisfaction. If you live life casually, you end up as a casualty. On being intentional, I would like you to be precise about the what you want, and be specific about the how. Be tactical about the who. Be choosy about the where, and be accurate about the when. But above all, do not compromise about the final outcome. Do not compromise on your standard. Be stubborn about the end result. Do not blink and do not bulge. Be intentional. You see, I love comedy. I had a story of this West African comedian called Emeka Smith. Emeka claimed to have acted in a Nollywood movie. And on that movie, he was crossing the highway And as he was crossing the highway, a saloon car came and knocked him, and he died instantly in the movie. When his villager mother was watching the movie back in the village and saw his son being knocked by a car and bleeding and dying instantaneously, the mother thought that was a real scenario. She started screaming and making noise, and villagers came and say, "My son has been killed. Emeka is dead." They say, "What do you mean?" Say, "I've seen Emeka being knocked on this screen and dying instantly." Say, "No, mommy, Emeka is not dead. Emeka is a movie star. That is a movie." Say, "No, I won't believe until you bring my son back in the village." So Emeka was summoned to come back in the village. Ladies and gentlemen, when the mother saw the boy, he couldn't believe. She said, "Emeka, you mean you are alive? After that small car killed you, you are still alive?" He said, "Mommy, that was just a movie. After the accident, the car killed me on the movie. After the movie ended, I was paid money. And here is your share as my mother. 200,000 naira as my mother." The mother said, "What, Emeka? You mean after the small car killed you, you got yourself some cash and you are bringing me 200,000 naira here?" He said, "My son, before you go back to Lagos, continue acting. I would like you to kneel down here. I want to pray for you." And the old woman goes and puts her hand on the boy and says, "Emeka, my son, as you go back to Lagos, let not a small car, let a truck, let a bus comes and kill you." Because she's wondering, if the small car, after killing you, you are bringing me 200,000 naira here, what about, Emeka, when you become more intentional to let a big engine, a big truck to kill you? You know what was the mother's prayer? Intentionality. My son, be intentional. Don't let yourself be knocked by small engines. Get knocked by a truck. So ladies and gentlemen, fulfilling potential, going full circle, calls for intentionality. Be intentional. Whether you're a business person or an executive or just a professional, I want to challenge you to live with intent. Be tactful. Growth is a function of intentionality. Some years back, a friend of mine approached me and said, "Pepe, I'd like to become a CEO." I said, "Wow, that's interesting. This person has been at the C-suite for years." But then he came to a moment where he felt, well, why not go to the top seats? I say, yes, why not? So as an executive coach, we started a coaching relationship. What did we do? We say, okay, let's look at the qualities of CEOs. When a board is hiring a CEO, what are the things they look at into a CEO? Together we started journeying, we took on into a journey. We looked at why some CEOs fail and other CEOs succeed. And I asked my friend, I said, tell me all the CEOs that you admire in town. And tell me the CEOs that you know who have not turned out to be what their organization expected them to be. So we took time looking at all the pros and cons of being a CEO and the attributes and all the qualifications and all aspects that's considered during CEO's interview. As they say, if you take life on, life opens up. You see, the best way to predict the future is to prepare for it. And one time my friend tells me, I've seen an advert in the paper. Company X is advertising for a position of a CEO. And he asked me, do you think we are ready for it? I said, let's go for it. The rest is history. He is a CEO of an organization. That's what I call the power of intentionality. You see, the best way to prepare for the future is to predict it. And when the future comes to those who prepare for it. Like someone say, you better prepare for an opportunity and not have it than have an opportunity and not be prepared for it. So, being intentional is preparing yourself for the next big thing in your career. And if I may ask, what is the next big thing in your career? What is the next big thing in your line of business? And how prepared are you? If the future came today and knocked at your door, will you be ready for it? Have you prepared for it? Have you seen it? It is Abraham Lincoln that said, after failing many times in political elections, after going bankrupt twice in business, after suffering a nervous breakdown for over 6 months, after losing his sweetheart, one time he paused and said, I will prepare. Perhaps my day will come. And eventually at age 51, his day came. He became the president of the United States of America. So better be prepared for an opportunity and not have it than have one and not prepare for it. The future belongs to those who prepare for it. And the best way to predict the future is to prepare for it. And when the future comes, it looks for people who have prepared for it. So be intentional. Our call to action on the aspect of intentionality is a study and a research I would like you to go and do. As we wind up this episode, I would like you to go to Google and do a search on this article, The Kennedys, the Making of a Dynasty. It's a one-pager article. You will understand the power of intentionality. How this family became America's royal family by the parents being intentional. From how the children dressed up, from how they spoke, the schools they went to, how they sat at dining tables, how they behaved, the people they associated themselves with. It's just an amazing article. Read it as a family. You'll understand that unlocking full potential calls for being intentional. Until then, be inspired before you expire. We will be right back. In our book review tonight, I would like us to look at chapter 4 of my book, Be Inspired Before You Expire. And chapter 4 is simply named My Journey of Inspiration. And there is a quote here. The happiest of people don't necessarily have the best of everything. They just make the most of everything that comes along the way. This chapter is all about intentionality. I share my own experience and I share the experiences of many. So grab your copy of Be Inspired and you'll find a lot of meaning in chapter 4 and in all the other chapters. So our social media handles are there. You can place your order and it can be delivered all over Uganda. You can also follow me on Twitter at Pepe Minambo. We'd like to introduce a new segment on this show, and the segment will be called Ask Pepe. You could put any question that you have that you have to hear an answer from me on the next episode. I'll appreciate to hear from you. As we wind up this episode tonight, I'd like to thank our sponsors. My deepest gratitude goes to our sponsors for enabling this show, for making this possible. Pepsi Max and Centenary Bank, our bank. I'd like also to thank Lake Victoria, Serena Golf Resort and Spa for giving us a platform to coming to your homes every Tuesday. Until next time, remember, the call to action tonight is, what is the next big thing in your life? Are you ready for it? Have you prepared for it? The best way to predict the future is to prepare for it. And on finding your truth and becoming more intentional, we've organized this amazing forum on the 8th of July from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. right here in Kampala. I'll be having 2 international guest speakers. These are transformational speakers, Dr. Robert Burale from Nairobi, Kenya, and Sarah Richardson from London. Until next time, be inspired before you expire. Good night.